Man, I'm okay, man. Is this background right? We okay with the? I had to put this old damn screen thing up,
No, it
man.
looks great. I usually so I just started this like MMA podcast and for whenever I interview people on my political podcast, it's like everyone is in like a suit or they're like, "Hey, is this backdrop okay?" With like UFC fighters, they'll be like on their fucking phones like while like driving. We literally interviewed one of the biggest jiu-jitsu guys the other day and he was walking around Magic Kingdom while smoking weed, and every once in a while he would have to put his phone down to go through security. He'd be like, "Be right back," and it just put it down, and I was just like, "God damn it, fucking fighters!"
Yeah, yeah, I love that shit though, man. That's probably the better way to be, man. You live longer, I think.
You probably do, yeah. Whereas like me and you were just like, "All right, we got to do it right," and just fucking done. Hey, I wanted to ask you before we like jump into trashing people in the political realm. You wrote this really wonderful thing about Kobe that like got me to call my brothers. And it's funny, I'm not a huge basketball guy and I've been talking about it almost every episode. It seems like it's affected so many people. I mean, when I found out about it, and this is true, I was hiking in the middle of the desert. No one was around. So there was a couple who were walking up this hill, and the woman goes in front, and she goes, "He's really upset." And I was like, "Oh, homeboy didn't want to go hiking," and she fucking dragged him, and now they're in this weird passive-aggressive fight. But the reason he was upset is he was looking at his phone, and he found out. So I'm literally in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by mountains, and there's this stranger crying, looking at his phone. I want to know your reaction, but also because you're a political guy, did you see on social media more positive, or did you see on social media people kind of trying to make it about them or be like, well, what about the bad stuff he did? And what's that balance? Like, how do you find that healthy balance?
Wow, man. Well, first of all, man, great question, man. Thanks for having me on, Jamie, dude. I'll tell you, man, it threw me for a loop, and sounds like it did the same for you, man, because dude, man, he was so young. Like
I know.
41 is young, you know what I'm saying? And he done so much. It's like it just seems so damn unfair. But we know life's unfair, generally speaking, right? It really is. But
Sure.
when it hits home like that, like a guy, you think, well, he's in this point of his life where everything's gonna be sweet, you know? Like
Yeah.
he got the rings, he's got the money, he's got the beautiful family, he's doing the right things. He hasn't been in the news in a bad way in like 20 years.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying?
I
Like
mean,
people
he
forget
really
that.
did. We talk liberals talk so much about redemption. Not to
Hmm.
sidetrack, maybe we'll get back to this, but liberals talk so much about redemption, and one of the reasons that I was drawn to the left was because of like prison reform and being anti-death penalty, and now it's this weird thing where we're also the sort of pro-cancel culture. Like it's almost we stopped rooting for redemption in a lot of cases. It seems like this kind of blind spot we have right now where we just want to, and maybe it's just social media, maybe it's not the left, maybe just social media, you just want to fucking bury people instead of look for the positive. But man, I think there was a lot of positive,
Yeah.
and we're seeing it now in his mourning.
Yeah, a lot of positive stuff, man. I mean, as far as the left, man, dude, for the purposes of being online so people could find my shit, I call myself a leftist. Like I say, I'm on the left, but in real life, man, I'm just Tim. You know,
Right.
I don't subscribe to the damn labels or whatever because it's so misleading. And
Right.
if it was up to me, bro, Jay, I would cancel those people that cancel people.
Right.
Like that's who we need to get the hell out. We need to get rid of those guys. My bad. We need to get rid of those people because they give a bad name to people who just want to give a fuck about other people. Like I just want the same things as you just stated.
Yeah.
Legalize marijuana, stop locking people up for a little bit of weed. End the wars. Like we don't need to send most people who go to war just wanted a college education, dude, or a good job. Like
Right.
that's all they wanted. They didn't want to really go to like Afghanistan, dude.
Right.
So who wants to go? That's not like a vacation
A
spot. You know what I'm saying?
destination hotspot.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So, but back to Kobe, man, dude. Honestly, Jay, man, I did not see a lot of negative people. Like I had like one guy. he wasn't even talking to me. It's just that his tweet came to me somehow on my timeline, but he didn't tag me. That was like, we shouldn't be mourning this guy. He's a rapist. One guy, and that was it. And I didn't respond to him.
Yep.
And I unfollowed him. And then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? He didn't at me. He wasn't a prick about it.
Right.
Life goes on, so I re-added him. And that was it. So I didn't go looking for people who had an issue. Now, had people jumped in my timeline and been like, who the hell are you to like be feeling sad or feeling bad about a guy losing? Not just him, remember, not just him, his daughter. I have a daughter.
Right.
And all the other people on the damn plane, like they totally act like those people don't even matter. We ain't even gonna go into that, Jay. How those people just basically erased a whole fucking family that died.
Right.
A mom, a husband, and a child, a daughter, or whatever. Like it's just ridiculous, man. So yeah, go ahead, bro.
Well, one of the things I really want to focus on is independent media, and what you've done and what you've built. And I think that's a really interesting, because I used to be on sort of the super call out left. So I still kind of follow them because I've been terrified to unfollow some people. And so I'll probably see it pop up more than you. But how did you end up curating this audience? Because it seems like, so for me, the people who want to talk to me the most, which I think is cool, old me wouldn't have, are conservatives. If I I'll go on like Crystal Ball Show or like Rising, and I'm still friends with like Greenwald and some of those guys, but for the most part, I'm not getting invited on liberal shows because conservatives are very excited, and I think, and I stay fucking liberal. People go, is that selling out going on conservative shows? And they say this with Bernie. No fucking way, man. If I can be an example of a liberal that they don't like or that they do like and that they can't paint as this cliche, and that makes them more open-minded, fucking great. I want Bernie to go on Fox. I want Bernie to go on Rogan, all that stuff. But I also think it's kind of a bummer that even though most of my politics are liberal, Glenn Beck would rather fly me out to Dallas. And like, bro, I have Glenn Beck on my resume. My resume was literally, it was like a quote from Robin Williams, a quote from Rolling Stone, and then Glenn Beck going, Jamie Kilstein is a doofus. And now we're like email buddies. We're like pals. What was your sort of trajectory in finding that audience that is still liberal, but also like aren't pussies, like are just cool and open-minded? Did you have trouble? Did you get shit from the left? Did you get more shit from the right? How did your kind of because I only just found you recently. I'm so glad I did. But yeah, what was your kind of trajectory with that?
Wow, man. Good question, Jay. Dude, I started out talking about social issues. So it was like, there'd be a cop shooting or there'd be somebody on death row or something like that, or just something that happened that just like really hit the consciousness of the world. And I would just talk about it. This was like in 2012, 2013. Yeah. So I wasn't even into politics like that. I was still like thinking Obama was okay, cool, because he had, he seemed to be funny, charismatic.
Fist bumped Michelle and shit.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. Wow, we got one. Wow, this is great. Like, I didn't have any idea how horrible his policies were and how much they hurt people, right? So I was kind of insulated from it because I had a 9-to-5 job and me and the wife, we were doing well. But once I got into politics and started realizing it, I just always been the same way. Like I'm always gonna be my own guy. And I don't really give a damn about other people like judging me or whatever. I never felt like. Someone told me a long time ago, Jim, they said, Tim, the dog you bring home is the dog you gotta feed, bro. So whenever there was a story and I felt the need to try to get an audience by like kissing their ass or sort of changing my views for the momentarily, sort of, because everybody wants to grow, everybody wants to get bigger. I would always remember like, yo, next time this issue comes up, similar issue, you may not feel like tap dancing. You may not feel like doing a moonwalk or whatever, doing charades, and they're gonna leave anyway.
Right.
They're
Right.
gonna leave anyway. So let's cut to the chase, man. And I would find myself whenever I would develop an audience that was weird, I would find myself doing things to get rid of them. Like
So fun.
basically telling them to get away,
Yeah.
or I do a video I knew would just piss them off so much that they'd leave.
Dude, my old show, it was like hardcore political, like interviewed Chomsky like 5 fucking times. But in the very beginning, me and my ex would just bullshit about, we would be filthy. We would make jokes about stuff that happened that day. And we called it the douchebag buffer, where it's like, if you can't make it through these first 20 minutes, you don't deserve our Chomsky. And what was so funny is every once in a while we would get emails from people who didn't know it was called the douchebag buffer. And they were like, I couldn't get through the first 20 minutes. And we're like, yeah, we know. We know. It was very purposefully. But man, that says a lot about you, because I've been performing. I started stand up. I dropped out of high school at 17 for so long, and I'm still not there, dude. I will still be writing a tweet and in my head sometimes be like, picture the people who don't like me and be like, they're going to fucking hate this. Forget it. And I'll kind of back off from it. What I have done is, I know I would make a lot more money if I just became the dude who now just dunks on the left and goes like super conservative and stuff like that. And I just fucking can't. I'm like you, where I'm like, I get bothered by the left, but my policies and my heart, I'm still liberal. But it's hard, man. I feel like that's why it's so cool that you've built this audience, because to have nuance is pretty tough under Trump. It seems like the people who get rewarded the most are kind of the extremes on the left and the extremes on the right.
There you go. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That is what happens. And I just liken it to the fact, I think it exists in all genres, man. If you were a musician, it'd be the same way. It'd be some guys who just play the same old shit. They play the same chords as the other guys, and
Right.
and they would have more success. But you would be like, inside your soul is like, you're always fighting that. You're always trying to say, well, why am I doing this? I'm selling out. So
We can't cover Freebird again.
Right, exactly. What, dude? I'm pretending I know what Freebird is. I have no idea.
It's the whitest song you will ever hear. You could be literally at like a fucking Miles Davis tribute, and the one drunk white guy will storm to the front and go Freebird. It's horrific.
Yeah, whatever that is, that's the song. Yeah. The idea anyway. But yeah, man, like. I slowly built, man. Like, I get pissed sometimes, though, Jay. I ain't gonna lie, man. I said last night on my show, David Pakman has 800,000 subscribers. I have 140. And it's like, dude is not, like, I don't see, like, where, and it's not to shit on him. He's got his audience. He built his audience. They love the guy. He gets, whatever. It's not just him as a placeholder. And I'm like, this guy's not like 10 times or 8 times better than me. Like, I don't feel like he's better than me at all. Why does he have such a bigger audience?
What's your theory? And me and him are friendly. But what's your theory behind it? Is it the fact that he's more kind of buttoned down and plays it safe? Is it he's been around? Like, what was the thing that drove you to be like, fuck? Because I have people like that who I'm like, I know are good guys, and I'll see them like on some TV show, and I'm just like, motherfucker, how the and. And to me, it's oftentimes the ones who play it just safe enough.
Yeah, man. It's like politics. You got to be a politician.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. I had no idea, Jay. Like, I was not primed for this. I just a guy who saw an issue. I'd read the issue. I'd talk about what I thought about it. And I became, like, over the time, you become more aware, more knowledgeable in politics. But I never looked at it and said, well, I have to play the audience this kind of way.
Right.
This is the way I have to respond to Tulsi Gabbard shit. This is the way I got to respond to Andrew Yang to keep these audiences in play.
Right.
This is the way I got to treat Bernie, or I'm going to piss off these people.
Dude, that's like, yeah, I came up the same way because I found politics through comedy. And so when I became a political comedian, So, like, my trajectory is fucking abysmal. It's every bad business decision you can make. Where I first became political under George Bush after 9/11 in New York City. So, fucking stupid, right? I had to go overseas to make a living. So, I would literally go to, like, London or Australia, make money, come home, not be able to play a shitty comedy club, and then just stay there until I went broke again. Then, when I started to get some notoriety, it was under Obama. Dude, I'm not allowed back on Conan. I went on Conan and screamed about during my comedy set, where oddly enough the other guest was Kobe. Screamed about drone strikes under Barack Obama, who was so popular. Now Donald Trump is president. It's finally almost a necessity to be a political advocate instead of a comedian. And now I'm like, hey, what if we talk about nuance? And everyone's like, fuck you. So I've made every wrong turn business wise that there is. But what I was going to say, what I see that's similar in me and you is I never looked up to academics or political wonks. Like, again, I was a high school dropout. I looked up to Pryor and George Carlin and Bill Hicks. And so that was my idea of comedy. It's like, all right, I don't know if they're Democrat or libertarian or whatever, but they're going after the establishment. They're going after the first George Bush. They're going after the church. They're where they see wrongs or whatever. And then probably like you, I kind of just got dragged into, now I'm a political guy, so I'm like, I guess now I got to talk about fucking impeachment, which I haven't even talked about. But like suddenly now you have to talk about, but I was like you, I was attracted much more to the issues and not like the game of politics. And that's kind of what I see that's different with you and Pac-Man, where I'm like, oh, you're a dude I would hang out with. You know, Pac-Man is so smart, but like, I don't have those fucking facts memorized like he does. You know what I mean?
Right. And you know what? That's honestly, that's probably a good portion of it is just the fact that he's so ingrained. Like he probably eats and sleeps his stuff, statistics, the history of the parties. Like I don't have all that shit down pat. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But what I do is I bring a refreshing perspective to politics.
Right.
Like every man type of take loaded with a lot of humor, man, because I've done some comedy touring myself, you know, with Lee Camp. So,
I know
Lee. Yeah. So we did like a six city tour or whatever, and that was real great, man. And I did some stuff here, and I like to infuse comedy in my shows or what have you. But yeah, man, you know, I think some of it's me, some of it is me. It's changing up. Like in 2015, my viewers said, Tim, you have to check out Bernie Sanders. And I was like, man, I don't trust politicians. Fuck politicians. These guys lie. They're like, no, Tim, no. Bernie's different.
Yeah.
So it was my viewers, Jay, that got me started to even consider politics.
Oh, and interesting.
That's what kind of got me going to be like, well, Tim, you talk about police reform. You talk about, prostitution and how, you know, they need to legalize that shit. And you talk about this, you talk about that. Well, you know what, Bernie, you know, he cares about the rights of people, and he's on a lot of the issues you talk about. He's fighting for those issues. He's been fighting for them for 40 years.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that got me involved, you know. And if it wasn't for that, I'd probably still be talking about Kobe and who got run over by a bus,
right.
Or, you know, I still haven't covered, like you, I haven't covered the impeachment either.
Right. Oh, really? Not really? Amazing.
Not really. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm like, if he gets kicked out of office, I'll fucking cover it. But right now, it just seems like a bunch of journalists like jerking each other off. And I'm like, I don't care. I legitimately don't care. By the way, I would pay money to watch a daily show of Tim Black covers who was hit by a bus today. Don't know why, but it appeals to me. So all right, so let's get into it, because I mean, you're just one of those dudes who the second I found you, I was like, oh, I could be friends with you. So I want to avoid me just telling you my entire backstory and hearing yours, the interview, and like, let's get into politics a little bit.
Okay.
With Bernie, and this is going to be like white guys stuttering around this question, but why do you think that a lot of the quote unquote woke audience, whatever you want to call them, voters, viewers, whatever, are attracted to much more moderate candidates that don't really seem to care as much about them. So like, I don't know if I phrased that right, but so like Bernie's policies, for example, in my opinion, would help communities of color more, would help LGBT communities more than, say, a Kamala Harris or an Elizabeth Warren. But then you have a lot of people, and maybe it's just on Twitter, kind of saying, hey, if you go after Kamala Harris, if you go after Elizabeth Warren, you're a sexist or you're a racist. And then there's the whole like Bernie bro term where it's just a bunch of angry white guys. But if you actually look at the policies, to me, it seems like a Bernie Sanders administration would actually help those communities a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who these people are who feel this way.
Yeah.
That you're describing exactly if they are.
It's a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the mainstream Democrats, the kind of like feminist, like white lady feminist world.
But you know, Kamala was horrible. Like Kamala should not even be in the conversation, man. She was wretched. Like anyone I met who liked Kamala, I knew instantly that they were a person totally looking at what color she was or what skin complexion she was. Yeah. That was it. Because like there was no real policy. Like to this day, you can't even say what was her chief policy. What was her main policy? People were like
locking up poor people.
Locking up people, yeah, that was her thing. Like, okay, well, that's not something you could run on. I mean, you could run on it, but you need to be a Republican if you're going to do that.
Right.
Like, that's the way I saw it. Like,
when she tried to turn that shit and was like, I'm going to lock up Trump like I did all those poor black people. It was like, ugh, it was so gross.
Right. Gag reflex on her total, man. So like I said, anybody who likes her, I just pan those people. I don't consider them really liberal.
Sure.
Like, I consider them neoliberal or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Misguided, stupid who watch MSNBC and go, these guys are telling the truth all the time.
Sure.
Like those people. But for Elizabeth Warren's a little bit different. I know there are some people that I respect who like Elizabeth Warren because they enter her like you said, David Pakman, the wonkiness of her, the way she knows the issues, the way that she explains things.
Yeah.
I just don't get a visceral feeling that she believes anything.
Yeah. So when did that happen? Because I watched your video that I think you posted last night about her, and it was so good, and you were kind of talking about that. Because I remember her when she first came on the scene. She was like the fucking cool, feisty lady who was going to take out the banks. This is before she was talking about politics. She was just like, I think it was around the bailout, right? And she was just going after Goldman Sachs and JP, like all these banks and stuff. And I was like, cool. So when she got into politics, it did at first sort of seem like, okay, she's this fucking outsider who wants to take on Wall Street. And then something happened, and I don't know when that was. I don't know if you have a take.
What happened, Jay? Someone took her aside and said, you want, play these fucking show tunes,
in
man.
A smoky room somewhere.
Yeah, play the show tunes, play whatever horrible, wretched song you described earlier. You got to play that shit. You got to do the moonwalk, and you got to learn to beatbox like everybody else. Or you're not going to, use an auto tone and do this stupid mumble rap shit.
Yeah.
And she did it because it was the pathway of least resistance.
Right.
It's how, so it happens, man. Politics is horrible, man. Like, you got to raise money to run. Like, there's no other thing you do. Like, okay, to be a podcaster or be a journalist, all you need is a mic. Some people don't even need a mic. They just need an internet connection and a Medium account. But to be a politician, people got to give you money.
Dude.
Like,
I know. When you think about how much I've seen two of the most uncomfortable Bloomberg clips in the last 2 days. One of him trying to pet that dog, and he just like grabbed this poor dog's nose. And it's like, when you think of the billions of dollars this guy is spending to be president, and like how many people we could feed with that fucking money, how many people we could close, the jobs that we could create, and instead you have this fucking motherfucker who's just like, I want to be president, and he's just throwing all of this money to be an idiot. And there's no fucking way he's going to win. The system is so broken, man. But so back to Elizabeth Warren. What I don't understand, especially for someone who is clearly that intelligent, is if you're going to take the Clinton playbook, Clinton lost to Donald Trump. Like, how can we still be repeating these mistakes. And I guess my question to you is, do you think it's because we're just fucking stupid? Or do you think it's because we need to pander to these corporate interests just as much as the Republicans need to, which is why we're, someone like Elizabeth Warren is like, hey, if you want to win, you got to tone it the fuck down.
Yeah. You know what? I think that there's no monolith. I think that there are people in both groups that you just described, Jay, where there's some people who are that damn stupid, man. Like, they believe drink the Kool-Aid about Russia, that it was all Russia's fault.
Jesus.
Even though Facebook says most of the ads that were brought after the election. Like,
Right.
People never even read the documentation to find out facts about it. So there's some people who believe, oh, Hillary didn't lose, it was stolen.
Right.
So those people are in a whole different trajectory of mindset.
That's a great fucking point. So they don't even see the mistakes that were made.
Oh, no. They just think
That's
that we just hate women. Man. We hate women. That's what it was. Yeah,
Right.
That's it. Like, it couldn't be Hillary.
Right.
And then there are the people who want to just play the game. They just know. Like, for instance, when you brought up Bloomberg, perfect example. I did a video about him last night. This dude has not only dumped a lot of money, he's ruined advertising in certain states because he's ran up the cost of advertising. So one of my little bits was like, he goes in to buy his advertising. He's like, so how much will it be to buy a 60-second clip? And they're like, it'll be $40,000. He's like, I'll give you $250,000.
Oh, he's just pricing out people.
Yeah, that's what he's doing, dude.
Fuck,
that's why some people dropped out, like Julian Castro and Kamala. They were like, Jesus, he's ran up the cost of ads in California to the point where Kamala, she couldn't even do a top 4.
Right.
So she was hosed. But so it's not just the money and the ads. It's not just, it's everything. It's the whole ecosystem being drowned out by billionaires. But back to Elizabeth Warren, dude. I think that some people, they want a woman. I feel you.
Yeah.
They want to learn what black people learn. That we learned that it don't matter what color he is. We had to learn that. Like, white people already knew it.
Yeah.
Because you've had 44 of these fuckers that well, not all of them. Some of them are good. But for the most part, like 3 of them probably did what they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
And some were extraordinary. But the rest, pretty mediocre guys. Like,
our starting lineup had slaves. That's not the best fucking starting point.
Right. But that being a white guy, it doesn't mean they're going to look out for white people, because white people screw over nobody more than white people. Like, they screw over. It's a lot more white people to screw over.
We fuck over everybody.
Yeah, they screw over. They sell out everyone. So black people had to learn it. And now women, I guess they got to learn.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't learned that women don't care. You would think they know as catty as some women can be. You would think women would know that women will throw you under the bus too. But some people really want to learn that lesson, Jay.
Well, man, what is your thought? Because I actually don't know your opinion on this. I feel like, okay, so my Twitter timeline, I still have my like very lefty buddies. And then I've become friends with a lot more conservatives, or the kind of like, it was called like the intellectual dark web at first, the kind of like liberal, not even like Jordan Peterson type. So you know who I'm talking about, the kind of center right, center left. And I feel like when it comes to identity politics, there are 2 camps, and there's one camp that are just fucking kind of like privileged white dudes who are like, we're all fine. Like, it's all equal. We're good. And then there's the other camp that does have a lot of people of color and does have a lot of women and does have a lot of LGBT people. But the way they talk about identity politics, and please call me out if this is just some white guy shit, it's almost more pandering and more insulting. Where, like, we're talking about like the Kamala Harris thing, where it's like, you're not even looking at her policies. You just want her because she's a black woman. Where do you fall on that? And is there some kind of, because I feel like there's not a lot of middle ground. And to me, my opinion on it is people of color, LGBT people, there hasn't been opportunities, whether it's in Hollywood or politics. You should have equal opportunities, right? But at the same time, you shouldn't reward shitty politicians or shitty show writers or shitty actors just because they're transgender or because they're a woman. Because to me, I think that's actually going to set these communities back because you're just kind of like putting out a mediocre product to prove you're not racist or to prove you're not sexist.
I get it. You know what? It's so nuanced, bro. It's like, you're right. Once again, there's different rules, schools of thought. There's different people to do things for different reasons. There are some white folks who I feel have their hearts in the right place. They know just based on their life experience that racism exists,
Yep.
discrimination exists,
Yep.
and they're like, this fucked up, man. It's not fair that people don't have the equal access to the ability to enjoy their lives, self-actualize,
Totally.
and do things. Right, so those people, I get it. Though misguided sometimes, I get their point. But then there are the people who use it like a weapon, right? You know, they weaponize people's color. Like, I'm black, so you can't say shit.
Right.
Nah, that's not what I really want. That's not good. Like, you should tell people to shut the hell up.
And you don't want that. You want to have conversations with people, and like you don't want to just like be told, I guess he's right because he's black.
Right, but you know, it's like online, like people's, I don't know, their patience level, their ability to go deep dive. Like everything can't be solved in 280 characters or less. Like everything can't be explained in that brief amount of time. So sometimes I think there's a lot of miscommunication. People get angry, people get pissed off. But you're right. There's identity politics. I wish we had another word. I would just like to call it a head start. Like, there are people, like there was this study, I was recently reading about it. There was two professors. One is from Chicago. Chicago is the University of Chicago. The other was from Massachusetts School of Technology. Anyway, they did a study where they sent out 5,000 resumes. They made 2,500 with white-sounding names like Brad and Gilmore, whatever the fuck. Then they sent the other ones with Daytron and Lakeisha.
Sure.
And they had the exact same like qualifications, and 50% of the time, like the white people got called back with the white names 50% times more than the black names, right? And then it gets really bad because then they increased the credentials of the black-sounding names.
Fuck.
Like they gave them 2 degrees, and it didn't change it.
Jesus.
They still didn't call it back. So this is reality. These are things I really didn't know about when I started in this business.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like everyone. So what happens, Jay? And this is the first time I've ever said this. I don't even know if my audience is ready for it. People don't realize that this affects everyone's life. Like, it affects my life. It affects my kids' life. It's not like you get to choose or opt in. It doesn't matter if you're a good guy or a bad guy. There are people who will look at me and say, Jamie just knows more because he's a white guy. Yeah. And those people are not just white people.
Yeah.
Those people are black people too.
Those people are also incorrect.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's not just a situation for that white people need to educate themselves. Black people need to educate themselves as well. Yeah. We're all infected or affected by the same shit. Like we all are. We all believe this. If the air is bad or the water's bad, we all drinking it. It's not like only white people are fucked up. Black people fucked up too.
Yeah.
I mean, when I had the great actor Bill Duke from Predator and all the other Car Wash.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on the show. He was telling me he was coming up. The black church had a paper bag test where if you were darker than the paper bag, you couldn't go in the church.
Whoa.
This was a black church, Jay.
Jesus, bro.
So he was like, Tim, so what do you think about that? I said, well, that's kind of fucked up, Bill. And we laughed, right? So identity politics, if it's getting at the real issues, but most of the time it's not. It's surface level bullshit. It's helping a Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
It's liking Cory Booker for just because he's brown. Like, dude, the dude sold us out on pharmaceuticals. I know that we could have got pharmaceuticals at half the price, at least from Canada. He voted against that shit.
Yep.
I really don't have time for the guy anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter.
And he was the same. He was the same as Warren. I mean, I'm a Jersey guy, and when he first came on the scene, that documentary, like Street Fight, where he moved into the slum and he was boxing and he was I was like, I love that guy. And then I think it was right around Occupy Wall Street where you're like, they got him in the same fucking smoky room, and it started kind of down the same road. What I wanted to say about the last thing about identity politics.
My name is Cory Booker. Before you move on, I'd just like to say my name's Cory Booker. My girlfriend's name is Rosario Dawson. And we need more love. We need more love. If we had more love, then we'd be better people. And Spartacus lives. All right, go ahead, bro.
Did you see that fucking tweet where they said like he read her some historical fiction book over the phone, some like 200 page, and I was like, I don't know how she does it, man. I have no, she's a fucking saint. What I was gonna say is, you know, when I hear a lot of the white people on like the center right complain about identity politics, to me, it's not coming from a great place. So I've had agents and TV producers and people say what everyone is hearing, which is, hey, it's hard for a white guy now. And to me, I'm just like, I mean, I'm kind of fine with that because we've had our chance, and that just means I have to work harder. That means I have to be funnier. That means I have to be a better artist, and I'm okay with that. Where I think it becomes problematic, and you kind of alluded to this, is, so I'll take another controversial issue just to get us into more trouble. But like with Me Too, if you're comparing Al Franken to Harvey Weinstein, or even someone like Aziz to Harvey Weinstein, it starts to lower the bar, and people start to take a very serious issue less serious because they go, oh, what, like the fucking Al Franken thing, whatever, and they start to pay less attention. And I wonder, when it comes to identity politics of race, if that's also happening where people are just blowing it off because and not paying attention to legitimate racism that we still have, like that study you talked about. Because when you hear identity politics, they just go, oh, what? Like the people who say I'm racist if I don't like Kamala Harris. And so you're kind of like dumbing down the whole argument. And you have a lot of people who maybe would care about that study who aren't even paying attention to issues of race anymore, and they're trying to do the like, can't we just not see color? Like, how do you find that? How do you talk about race without going into the pandery areas, but also get people to fucking care more about it? Because there still is a shitload of legitimate racism.
Damn, good question, man. If I knew the answer to that, I'd probably be a politician, man, or something, right? I think we just kind of did it by just, in this podcast, we talked about some real shit.
Yeah.
That people could really go look up if they're so inclined and find out more information about it. And they'd be like, damn, I didn't know that. And I think that's how you do it, as opposed to pointing over there going, there goes a black woman. She should be the leader because she's black. Like, that's not,
right.
She might suck at being a leader. You know what I'm saying? The Peter principle does have some bearing on us. Like people move up to a level and then they suck. And you got to actually be qualified for certain things. I don't want the guy, I wouldn't want somebody flying my plane who couldn't fly. All right.
Right.
Just because they were, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some shit you got to know how to do. And that felt really fucked up to say, just at just now at this time and where we are. But, dude, I forgot where I was. That kind of took the wind out of me just thinking about it. Made me think about Kobe. But
I know, man.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. But the point is, like, yeah, there are people who are disingenuous, man. Those people piss me off because they just don't want to have a conversation about anything that makes them uncomfortable. Like, okay, so when you talk about the Me Too movement, yes, there are women who have been sexually objectified or whatever for centuries. Like, This is a going thing. No one can deny it. No one should deny it. But on this other hand, there's some women who are assholes who don't deserve like our pity. And there are some women who lie, make up shit. In the hood where I grew up, there are women who will beat your ass quicker than guys. There are women who will set you up to get robbed. Like, there's a lot of shit that these people just whitewash, for lack of a better term, or blackwash, however you want to say it, who just clean up women and make them all seem like they're angels when they're not. But on the same token, I would vote for Elizabeth Warren if I thought she would fight for me. I don't care if she has a uterus.
Right.
I don't care. I would vote for Kamala if she was truly a champion. I would go all the way. I would go to the ends of the world to help her get elected if I felt she would do what's needed to be done to make this country better. I just don't believe in them.
Right.
It's not my fault. I believe in the old white dude. Like, he's a 78-year-old white dude, Jewish dude. Dude, but his policy. It's not that they try to discount us and say it has something to do with personality, code of personality. Fuck you. Like,
dude, To
We
me,
don't.
it's more sexist being like, you can't criticize the woman because she has delicate lady feelings, and if you criticize her, you're sexist. Like, that to me is fucking patronizing. It's paternalistic. You know, I mean, I remember this article came out about Elizabeth Warren sometime last month where they said by calling her a moderate, that is like a sexist trope. No, it's not. There haven't been guys like hollering at women out the window like, yo, girl, you look like a moderate. Like, that's fucking insane. You are literally saying you cannot criticize a politician for her policies because she's a woman. And to me, dude, that's fucking infinitely more sexist than me being like, hey, I see her as a person. I see Bernie as a person. I don't fucking like her policies. You know, if I was like, she's going to get her period or she's not hot, or it's like, all right, now I'm a fucking sexist. But if you're criticizing someone's policies, man, that's good.
Yeah, if you know, I mean, Elizabeth Warren, I don't know how she feel about it, but I gotta imagine she'd be like, "Oh, Jamie, I worked really hard to be where I am, and for women, it's a lot harder. Listen here, Bucko.
Yeah, she pulls out her
Fiddly
fan.
sticks." Yeah, you know, but I think that there is a thin line. Like, I want to respect women's plight, their situations, that and I want to listen, but I'm not just going to automatically believe you just because you're a woman, or I'm not going to automatically just support you or whatever.
Yeah.
I will listen to you. I think what everyone wants, like the same thing I want, Jay. Hey, if you like my shit, you like give me a listen. Don't
Sure.
like it? Cool. That's it.
Right.
Like when you see just don't scroll because you see black guy, black bald guy, get the fuck. Like, that's what we don't want.
Right.
I think the same thing goes for women. Uterus, get out of here. You know, like
Yeah.
no one wants that guy. Like, that's the problem. And the same thing applies probably for Latinos, and you're saying it applies for white guys too. The problem with white guys is no one ever just scroll because there's a white guy. Because
Right.
everybody, like, it's the dominant, it's the default.
Right.
And back to your point, because I wanted to talk about that. Hey, a lot of white people are not successful. So there's that. Like, there's so many. It's like they're always competing against each other all the damn time. I think that it's always been tough. Like, I don't know how it can not be tough when you're like 70% of the country. Like, you're always fighting against another white guy. You're always competing at some level. I think as a black person, we sit back and we go, white people got it good. We forget it's a lot of white people.
Yeah.
Like, and all of them aren't doing so good. Like, all the poor black people probably there's still more poor white people. Like Benjamin Jealous, who ran, he was the NAACP director.
Yeah.
And he ran for presidency, governor of Maryland, my state, Maryland. He didn't win. He lost to Larry Hogan, a white guy, who was more like Donald Trump but a little softer. Anyway, the point is, he said something. Tim, he said, Tim, America doesn't just incarcerate the most black people in the world, it incarcerates the most white people too. And I'm like, oh shit, Ben. I never thought about it.
Right.
I never, because white people don't think about it. When we think criminal justice, we just think black people.
Yeah.
I got to support this because of black guys. There are a lot of poor-ass white guys getting reamed by the system, too. Well, it's just per capita, it's more based on the lack of numbers. Well, but there are a lot more white people getting screwed, dude.
That's why it's so important, I think, for voices like you, because a lot of times when conservatives will bring up men's issues or white people's issues, it's not coming from a genuine place. So what I mean is, like if like you're covering a story about like a woman who was raped, suddenly people will go, well, what, men are raped too. And you go, all right, cool. But like, are you actually doing anything to prevent men from being raped, or do you just want to shut down this woman's conversation? And the same thing will happen with race, right? If you're talking about a poor black guy who was shot by the cops, or you're talking about incarceration, suddenly they go, well, what, white people too. And it's like, okay, what are you doing for white people who are abused by the police or whatever? And so I think we need to give people on both sides permission, like you're doing and like you do on your show, to have this conversation, because if white people and black people could get together and be like, yo, we're both being fucked by the same people, instead of just trying to throw their oppression in each other's face.
The oppression Olympics.
Dude, then it's like, hey, we're all being fucked over by the same people. And then we could do it. But the problem is a lot of white people, when they talk about poor whites, it's not coming from a genuine place of we want to help poor whites. It's we just don't want to hear about black people shit. So we're like, we got it bad too. Moving on.
Yeah, I think, you know what? That was a great way to handle it. Like, what are you doing about the white people that are screwed? Oh, nothing. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, we're voting for the same fucking rich assholes that are going to screw everyone over.
Well, you know what? I think that we just need to focus on the people that'll pay attention, dude, and the people that are receptive.
Yeah.
You can't change everybody. And to the credit of most women, there are a lot of women who agree with what we're saying right now.
I know.
Like, they're the most vocal. They're like, yeah. Like I hate like the amount of venom that Hillary gets. A lot of it's from women.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women who like, oh, I know women like her. Oh no, she's horrible. So
I know women like her.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I want to respect the fact that there are. So I think that we focus on the good. I've had to focus on the good of the people that actually don't whataboutism me to death. Like everything, they don't go, what about?
Right.
What about? To, you know, like, oh man, like that's infuriating.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh well, you know, yeah, like dudes get raped by dudes.
Right.
That's different.
We're
that's
still the problem. It's still us.
Yeah,
it's still us who are raping.
Dave Chappelle told me it was a real problem. Yeah, that's a problem. Dude, speaking of Dave Chappelle, did you see the clip where Dave Chappelle explains why he supports Andrew Yang?
No, I haven't yet.
Dude, I saw it like 3 o'clock last night. I was up editing. I was like, shit, I got Jamie's thing tomorrow. Let me go to bed, but I got to watch this. Dude, I was so pissed. Bro, Jay, I'm so pissed because he made so much sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, damn. Because I felt bad because I was like, I bet you Dave supporting Andrew Yang because he's safe. Like, he's safe for the support. Like, there'll be no price to pay by supporting Andrew Yang. He's a likable guy. He's the first serious Asian contender for the nomination.
Yeah.
People will just shut the hell up. But when he talked, it was thoughtful. It made sense. I'm like, damn, like now I gotta think about what Dave said.
Ooh.
And I can't just pan it.
I
like,
gotta fucking watch. I mean, Chappelle, I think, is this generation's greatest thinker. I mean, I remember, dude, I took him. There was a phase where, right when I was starting to get club work in New York, it was at the height of Chappelle's popularity. And so I got to see, I was like mid-20s. I got to see all of that shit happen. I saw him pop into a club, to the Boston Comedy Club, in front of 50 people, try to do material that made me cry about the war in Iraq. And people would be like, do Rick James. And he would have to explain. So when everyone was like, he's on drugs, he fled to Africa, I was like, no, he's not. I fucking saw. He was the only, dude, I've been on lineups with Chris Rock, with everybody. He's the only guy I've ever seen have a bodyguard. He had this big Russian dude who he brought around just because he was getting fucking terrorized by frat boys being like, I'm rich. And he would try to explain, this is stand-up. This is different. The show is different. But man, the material he was doing back then about the war, about Bush, stuff that never made it onto a special, was so incredible. And it's fascinating right now, after his last special, a lot of people on the left are so looking to get upset or offended if you don't fit into every one of their boxes. That dude, his last special, and I never thought this. Growing up, he was my fucking hero. I never thought this, but the people I saw gleefully tweeting about his special, Ben Shapiro, all of these conservatives, and maybe it was just as like a haha, fuck you liberals, but it was wild, man, to see a lot of people on the left back away from Chappelle, and then to see a lot of people on the right kind of embrace it. What did you think of all that? Because he's a DC guy.
Yeah. Dude, first of all, man, thank you for sharing that story with me because I hadn't heard that. And the fearlessness that you describe is so motivational for me because, like, dude, like this is my I'm in my waning years, like, you know what I'm saying? My almost knocking on the door, man, and it's like I might as well just do what I want to do, and that's inspiration for me. But to your point,
and also
man,
remember, by the way, all of these comics are huge right now.
yeah,
Chappelle, Rogan, Bill Burr, all these guys fucking peaked at 50. Like like Chappelle's been big since he started stand up so early, and Rogan, he had Fear Factor and stuff like that. But when the Joe Rogan podcast became bigger than any late night show, when Chappelle signed the biggest Netflix deal and was the first guy to do like 5 specials, this should happen when they were old. With comedy and with what we do, it's not like acting. Like,
that's true.
Because I tell myself that too, man. I mean, I'm almost fucking 40 where I'm like, oh, I got to make shit happen. But it's interesting to see these guys have suddenly gone to theaters and stadiums and shit in between 40 and 50.
Yeah. It's inspiring the hell out of me, man. I mean, I left a career in computers like 8 years ago, and never looked back, bro. Like that was it. And it's like I told the wife, this is what I'm doing. Every dollar I had saved up, I just said, here goes the bills, and I'm just gonna make it happen. And luckily, things worked out. But damn, dude, I forget the exact question.
Right. Sorry. We were talking about Chappelle and the sort of like right-wing embrace of Chappelle and the left-wing distancing.
Yeah. Part of it is, I believe, Jay, to be that it's a thumb in the face of the liberals. Oh, you thought because he was a cool black guy, he was going to be on your team.
100%.
He sounds more like the type of shit we like. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you put out a message. You don't have there's no rules over who likes it or who enjoys it.
Right.
Like you put the art out, and it'll find the people that need to gravitate to it. So that's on them. I mean, and it's to your point. You brought it up earlier. Like if you went conservative, you'd be bigger. Like you'd make more money.
Sure.
I had the same offers. Like people like,
Tim,
dude,
I got two book deal offers just to shit on the left.
Dude, I had a partner named H.A. Goodman who had written like 150 pro Bernie articles. He flipped and went Trump and NRA and shooting gun videos and talking about Trump shit. And I'm like, he was like, Tim, man, you need to go. This is what you need to do, man. Like there's nobody funny and intellectual and these things that's black on the right. You'd be huge, bro.
Yeah.
You'd be huge. And I'd be like, man, I can't do it because I don't agree with the politics.
Bro, I had one night that I will never forget. It was after like the divorce and my shit came crumbling down and I was like broke. I was staying on my friend's couch in LA. After being like rich and successful, I was holding my cat crying, being like, I'm not going to be able to take care of you. I have this moment where I go, all right, maybe, and it's not like I was like, I'm going to sell out, but I was like, maybe I am more conservative now. Maybe I am, I'm just going to watch a Ben Shapiro video. And I put up YouTube and I go to watch Ben Shapiro, and within 5 seconds, I was like, nope, fucking, I'm staying on the couch. Sorry, cat. Like, I couldn't do it. And there's a lot of conservatives I respect now, and I love, I bet you have conservative listeners too, and I've enjoyed a lot of these conversations, and I think I'm mentally healthier seeing conservatives and liberals in my Twitter feed. Yeah. But I've had those same conversations with myself where I'm like, this is going to be fucking slower, and I piss off people on the left, but like you can't change who you are, because even on a business level, if you did that and if I did it, maybe it would last for 2 years. But what makes people huge, Chappelle, Rogan, it's authenticity, And I think that's why, look, I look at you like you look at Pac-Man. Not angrily, but I look at you and I go, oh, fuck, I got to get there. And then you're looking at Pac-Man and you go, I got to get there. But what really does
I want his numbers. I don't want his audience. Because he has to apologize way too much. He's like always, like every other month, it seems like he's explaining, like, look, guys, let me explain what I was thought. Nah, fuck that, man. You don't like what I said. Get out of, I understand. See me in a month. You're not going to find better. The cook is better at home with mama.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that shit. So I don't want that.
Dude,
like, That's too stressful.
That's interesting you said that, because I heard yesterday, and again, I'm not trashing him by any means. Like I just
No, it could be anyone. Sam Cedar,
yeah,
Kyle, anybody.
I emailed with Dave the other day because Jordan Peterson's website came up to me and wanted to know if I wanted to host my podcast there. And, you know, I'm having the debate that fucking anyone would have, where I'm like, all right, they're more center right over there, but it's more audience, right? And it's like a different audience. And if I stay liberal, is that good? And yeah, apparently Pacman was on there for the beginning and then had to do an apology video because he got, I didn't know he was known for apology videos, but I'm like, I literally just heard that yesterday where he got so much shit for being on it. And he was like, I've made a mistake. And you know, there's part of me, man, where it's like the people who are going to attack you on the internet, they're just looking to attack people. They're going to fucking attack you no matter what you do. So you might as well do the thing. Yeah. Like, look, if I went on Glenn Beck's show, or if I went on Peterson's website and I was like, this is Jamie Kilstein saying trans people aren't real. It's like, all right, now I'm a bad person. Now I'm a sellout. But if I can get in front of those fucking huge audiences and be like, hey, here's why these liberal policies are going to help you. To me, isn't that what you fucking want? If you truly care about the policies as a liberal, don't you actually want to convince people? And what I start to think is, no, you just want to do what I used to do, which is you just want to sound like the most self-righteous in the room.
Very true, very honest, and I agree 100%. That's exactly what they want you to do, Jamie. They want you to be them. They want to control you. Right. Same thing what happened with the Kobe thing. It wasn't that some of them didn't even know about the story about Kobe, really. They just want to control your fact that you were mourning or people were mourning or feeling bad. They wanted to be able to control the narrative. For instance, dude, I went on InfoWars with Alex Jones.
No way.
I went on one episode of InfoWars with Alex Jones. The little bro, the first thing, like when the introduction, like with, hey, Tim, how you doing? I said, hey, how you doing, Alex? Thanks for having me. Before we get started, let me say that Sandy Hook shit, I disagree with you 100%. That shit's wrong. I don't agree with you. And he was like, all right, fine. That's good you said that. You got to say that. You got to get that out there, you know? And I'm like, because they're going to hate you if you don't say it. Well, this is how I feel. And then we had a conversation about censorship. That's what the show was about.
Yes.
There are people to this day who never watched the segment. They don't know. The first thing I did was call him out on his own show. Instead, they talk shit that I went on this show. They don't know. I went on The Blaze with Tommy Loren. They invited me to be the black guy.
Sure.
About Black Lives Matter. People never watched the show. They just said, Tim went on The Blaze. They didn't give a fuck that I called her out. I was there to call her out. That was the whole point. She wanted to hear the perspective of Black Lives Matter, and I was that guy. But they just know Tim went on The Blaze. So dude, Tim's a sellout. So you can't help the fact that these people, they're going to have their narratives no matter what we do, Jack.
And now, would you
go on Jordan Peterson? I don't know.
Well, and you probably, I'm totally going to do it. Fuck it. You probably convinced a lot of people. I mean, I remember, I also now, when you said the Alex Jones thing, when you were like, first, I like to imagine even if he goes to dinner, like even the waiters have to be like, before I serve you, you should know I disagree with the Sandy Hook thing. But fucking, I went on The Blaze. I went on this panel show, and it was so interesting because I started to talk about the kids in cages, the immigrant kids in cages, and right away, people started to get defensive. Like there was an NRA guy next to me, NRA TV, and he was like, well, the parents, and I go, no, I'm not judging any of you. I go, do you guys think, forget what the parents did, when you see, and forget our immigration policy disagreements, when you see kids in cages, how does that make you feel? And the host, this woman, Sarah Gonzalez, who's amazing, goes, it breaks my heart. I have kids. And I go, all right, can we start the conversation there? If we all agree that we don't want kids in cages, how about we start it there? And dude, the amount of emails I got from conservatives being like, that was such a breath of fresh air, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you probably did more good on Tommy's show being like, hey, here's another, as opposed to if you said, no, I refuse to get your fucking lefty kudos on Twitter. But then it's like her whole audience didn't get to see your opinion. So who the fuck actually wins with that?
Good point. I can't argue with it at all. It's why I did it, and also to learn a new audience, to get a new audience, to expand my audience. And you know, I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't help that I went on this show to a certain extent, but it hurts too. But like you said, the same thing about Chappelle. You got to just be fearless and do your shit, and don't be worried too much about what other people's thoughts are or how they're going to take it. My people, for instance, like when we talk about, it's back to the audience thing. My people would be mad if I apologized for doing it.
That's awesome.
They would be let down. They'd be like, Tim, you're supposed to, no, man, do your shit. Like, don't apologize to us for having a different opinion. So I've built a smaller audience. It's niche. It's a niche audience. Sometimes it makes me go, wow, I wish I was bigger, but at least I get to be myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
at least
dude.
that. There's something residual to that. I guess it's just, yeah.
I'm telling you, I look at you and I'm really inspired. Did you watch the Chappelle? He just won the Mark Twain Award videos.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That quote, right? What was the quote that his mother told him? The like, if you want to be a lamb, you have to be a lion, or something like that. And it reminds me of what you said, where it's just like, hey, I'm like, we're both empathetic. There's a reason we're on the left, right? We want to help people. Maybe we're bleeding hearts, whatever. But in order to do that, to be that person, you got to be a fucking lion, and you have to not be afraid to back down. And, you know, that's something I'm so excited I found your show, because that's something I'm really going to take from you, because it's hard for me sometimes. Sometimes I start to backtrack and in my head, I don't apologize, but in my head, I'm like, maybe I should stay away from that. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Do you have time for two more really quick questions?
No, go ahead, man. I'm good.
All right, so last political question, and then I want to ask you something about your show. Political question, this will win over anybody we lost, where we can shit on Joe Biden now, and everyone will be like, oh, we're coming together. You, I feel like, are willing to point out the real reasons Trump won, but you're also a progressive dude, a Bernie guy. What do you think when you see all of these mainstream articles about Biden being able to win and him being more appealing to, you know, poor white guys and stuff like that? Is that a media concocted thing, or is there some truth to it?
Well, good question. I think that I think Joe Biden is largely a compromised candidate. You know, I think people support him because they feel he's who we should support. In fact, there was a legislator, I think it was out in South Carolina, who switched to Bernie Sanders for just that fact. That's exactly her statement in her reasoning. Wow. She said she was going with Joe because he seems safe, but the more she looks at it, Joe will not inspire new voters. He won't get disaffected voters, and he doesn't have a grassroots push. It's just the reality of it. He hasn't built a movement. And so I think that Joe Biden is the guy you go with to try to play it safe. But these people are delusional, Jay. Yeah. They think we're going back to a different time. We're not going back to it. The world has changed. Trump changed the world. Like, Obama came and the world was different. Now we know a black guy can't be elected president. Our politics changed. Social media, he used social media in a way that was never used before. No one's ever going to go back to when you had to go on the Channel 7. Like, that shit's dead. Like, now you can just go Facebook. Like, That was Obama built that shit. Same thing with Trump. Trump changed the paradigm. It shifted. The Overton window was shifted. Everything's different. We're not going to go back. So Biden is a callback. Those, you know what's up. That's over, man. He's a stinker. He's a loser. He's not going to win. I don't think Obama's going to endorse him because he don't want the stink on his name.
No, man.
I think that's what I really believe about Biden. And I think that people, I think it's a fallacy that older black people like this guy. I think older black people know his name. They know he worked with Obama. Yeah. They don't know shit about Obama, really, except what they see on Ellen or some shit. Or Steve Harvey show. Or something stupid. So but those people will not cancel out all the young people, in our biggest voting group, the people that don't vote Johnson.
Yeah.
So that's what I believe about that.
No, that's great. So last thing, and this is kind of, it may seem it's very sincere. It's not for me and you just to like promote our patrons or Patreons, but how important, especially during an election year, especially with all the lefty infighting, is independent media? Like, is shows like yours and mine, or even, Crystal Ball and Sagar, they have blown up, and that's pretty fucking incredible. I think there are a lot of people who listen to our shows and stuff, and they're like, oh, I could support them just because I like them. But, when I see a show like yours and I can step away from like my Patreon or whatever, and I see someone like you, I go, oh no, this isn't just about supporting an artist I like. Like, this is sending a fuck you to CNN and MSNBC and Fox. How important is it to support independent media right now?
Man, perfectly, dude. It's major because it is risky. Like you just stated, there are other ways you can make money. I could just cover the same stuff that the BET shows cover, the regular black shit. I could just do that and be fine. In fact, I used to do that, Jay, and I got a lot more views and made a lot more money in this genre. Just covering regular, oh, God, I can't believe Becky did that shit.
Wow.
Becky called the cops. Man, they always calling the cops.
Oh, Becky just got hit by a bus.
She got hit by a bus, too. Good. I'm glad Becky that's what she get for calling the cops on that black kid. Like, that shit will sell. America's built. It's in our DNA. That's always going to sell in America. But if you want real news, you want Jamie giving you the real dope, telling you exactly what's going on, knowing that if you disagree with Jay, you disagree with him. You're not It's not that he's been paid to lie to you. That's important.
That's a great fucking way to put it, man. Where it's like, you're not... Yeah, if I disagree with you, it's not because you had to cut to a health insurance commercial and you're just fucking, that's why you're against universal health care or whatever. It's just because me and you have a disagreement, and that's fine. Oh, that's such a fucking good way to put it, man.
Thank you, bro. Because your viewers need to know that it's not just what Jamie says or what Tim Black says or anyone else you respect. It's the shit they leave out. See, when they are getting paid to say something, they'll leave out certain facts. Maybe they won't tell people that when they talk about Obama, they just leave out the fact that he droned more people than any other president combined. Yeah. Like, they just, casually omit that part from the conversation. So it's not just lies. It's lies by omission. It's inconvenient truths that they just leave on the cutting room floor about Joe Biden. How many people know that Amy Klobuchar was a prosecutor? That she was just as bad as Kamala Harris. She locked up parents for truancy too. Yeah. She locked up kids for a little bit of weed for a long amount of time. Amy Klobuchar is just as bad, but CNN won't touch it. MSNBC won't touch it. Yeah. But Jamie and Tim Black will touch it. Yeah. Because it's the right thing to do.
Dude, I thought about that with the Rogan when Bernie got so much shit for the Rogan endorsement, where it's like, Rogan is the only podcast I've heard someone talk about Palestine. I mean, you don't get more like quote unquote lefty progressive than that. And he had Abby Martin on, and Abby talked all about fucking the plight of the Palestinians. And it's like, we are so busy being like, but he said this one joke that I don't like 10 years ago, that we're not seeing that. It's like, yo, he had fucking Yang on, and he had Bernie on, and he had Tulsi on, and he's talked about Palestine. You don't have to
the rest wanted to come on.
Yes. Yeah.
Dude, Joe Rogan just got too powerful for him. They want to try to stop him, but they can't.
They can't.
Like, they stopped paying attention to the stove. Like, they had something on the stove or whatever, and they turned around, they looked back, it's a fire there.
Yeah,
and
dude.
Now they can't put it out, and it's Joe Rogan. So,
and by the way, you don't need advice from me, but I feel like this is the most inspired I've been after an interview. So I'm just gonna say this because of the Pac-Man conversation we had with Joe. So I was on Joe's show when it was still at his house. So I had been on that. I had gotten into a fight with Joe, and then 2 years ago, Joe brought me back from the dead, and I credit him for having a career again. So I've seen Joe through all of the fucking phases, and now where things are crazy. And what you said about building an audience, about being niche or whatever, if you look at what Joe talks about, Joe is technically as niche as you can get. And what I mean by that is if somebody went to pitch the Joe Rogan Experience to, and this is what I tell podcasters, to an agent and was like, all right, I'm going to have hunters and UFC fighters on, but I'm also going to have Bernie Sanders, and then I'm going to have Alex Jones, and then I'm going to have some guy talk about keto for 6.5 hours. They would be like, no. And he's like, wait, I didn't tell you the best selling point. Each episode is way too long. They would be like, get the fuck out of my office. This sounds horrible. But the reason he fucking blew up is because he started doing it at his house and he had conversations that he wanted to have. Not what's lacking, what could bring in money. And now he is the biggest show in the world. And by the way, it hasn't changed. He's still interviewing fucking weird, all these people that shouldn't be on the same show. So like, I truly believe, and what I'm telling myself, which is those niche audiences, man, they're not going to leave you. If a generic fucking, pandery, whoever switches networks or goes off the air, how many people are really going to follow him? I would rather have 100,000 person army than I would have 1 million people that if I was gone tomorrow, they'd be like, oh, all right, I got another podcast. You know what I mean?
Good point, man. Like, look, I'll keep that in the back of my mind when I get pissed off, man.
Great.
Because it's true. And I think there's a book called 100,000 True Fans or something.
Yeah, there's an article. It's 1,000 true fans.
1,000. That's all it needed was 1,000?
If there are 1,000 people that will join your Patreon, that if you put out a new T-shirt, will buy that T-shirt. Now, it's a small percentage, right? So if you have 50,000 listeners, maybe you'll have 1,000 out of that. But those 1,000 people, so like the people who just every time I put out an album, I know 1,000 people, they literally will buy it. They literally did the math, and it's like, all right, that's how you can make a good 200,000 a year, and you're kind of set. And there's also a study done that says once you pass $70,000 a year, you're pretty happy. A lot of people who go above that actually become less happy because they start doing work they don't want to do and shit like that. So if you combine those two studies, it's like, all right, like you can make a fucking good living and you can be unapologetic, and you can get away with that where you don't have to make a fucking apology video every week because you know that you have this consistent audience that's ride or die. That's my goal, at least.
Yeah, that's my goal too, man. At this point, I didn't know I would get this far. So, yeah, I like that idea much better.
Well, dude,
than trying to get 1 million.
You're gonna be the fucking first Patreon I join because I finally have a little bit of money now that the podcast is picking up. I'm such a fan. I will send you my number if you need motivation. I'm just really glad, genuinely glad that we got to have this conversation, man.
Dude, I'm glad that you contacted me, man. Thank you for reaching out, bro. I don't turn down nothing but my collar, bro. So I looked at your podcast. I saw that you had Bravo on. I saw that you do a show.
Yeah,
that's all I needed to know. Like that's good enough. He talks politics too. Cool.
Great.
Like dope, man. Thank you, Jay, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, man.
And do this again, man. Maybe after the next debates come on and we can fucking scream about it.
Same thing here, man. I'll invite you on my show.
Oh, anytime.
We'll switch it up.
Anytime. All right, brother. Talk soon.
All right, fam. Later.
Thanks, man.
You got it.